breaking news this afternoon, and unfortunately for all concerned, it's not good news, Jack the Jobber. WWE have released yet more superstars here in the year of 2021. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com was the guy who got the scoop on this news. He tweeted, Fightful has learned the following WWE wrestlers have been released. Here are the names: Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Ruby Riott, Lana, Santana Garrett of NXT, and Buddy Murphy. Later on, WWE then confirmed the news on their Twitter account. WWE has come to terms with the releases with all of the names I've just mentioned. WWE wishes them the best in all of their future endeavours. Of course, this is a development story. This is the latest we've got here. Keep checking Cultaholic.com and this very YouTube channel for the latest. Sean Ross Sapp is not sure if this is the end, Jack. What are your initial reaction to those names? There's some absolutely big names in there, isn't there?
Yeah, very unfortunate for everybody involved, and very shocking as well, especially, I think, Braun Strowman. He is he's not like the purest worker or anything in WWE, but there's no one else like him in wrestling really at the moment, is there? And I just can't believe that they've released him, unless there's more behind the scenes that we don't know about, potentially falling outs and stuff, but that's all pure speculation. If you just look at it on the surface, how is there not a spot on that roster for Braun Strowman?
That's the thing as well. He's been at the top of the Raw card for the past year pretty solidly. He's been at the top with Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley, just having big, beefy brawls. We go back to last year, he was doing stuff with The Fiend, who is, of course, one of the top characters in WWE. Aleister Black is one that leaves you scratching your head because, of course, on SmackDown, we're still currently building to his re-debut, if you like, with these video packages where he's talking about the Dark Father and stuff like that. Aleister Black has actually tweeted his thoughts after hearing of his release. He said, "I'm gathering my thoughts as this was a complete left field for me, as obviously we just started the Dark Father character, but this was it. Thank you so much, WWE Universe, for allowing me to create and give you small bits of myself." So we're building to this re-debut with this new sort of shade to his dark character with a Dark Father and whatnot, and seemingly out of nowhere, Aleister Black has been told he's been released. Yeah,
again, that's a very baffling one, not only because he's very talented and a great character guy in WWE in an era where often they've been criticised for not having as many characters as they used to, but also, as you mentioned, because we were just about to see the debut of this new sort of gimmick for him, or this new slant on his persona. Aleister Black's whole run's been an absolute mystery, hasn't it? Because he was really impressive in NXT, got called up in this sort of makeshift tag team with Ricochet. Then that tag team broke up. Then he spent a long time in the room just doing nothing, and they would seem to be killing time until they could find something to do with him. Had that little feud with Buddy Murphy, another of the names that's been announced as released, and then went back to effectively a similar gimmick to the one he had before, sitting around building up to something, but it never. Well, obviously now it's never happened, and I think it's really a sign of a lot of issues with WWE creative at the minute. A lack of, I don't know if consistency is the word, but it just seems like sometimes things are scrapped or picked up or dropped without little thought. There doesn't seem to be much in the way of long-term planning anymore.
That's it, isn't it? Because Aleister Black actually appeared in person at the end of last week's SmackDown, as we're sat here to confront it looked like Big E. So how Big E's going to address that on this week's SmackDown is going to be interesting to see, of course, but it just leaves you scratching your head, because you go back to sort of Aleister Black's class of NXT, you're thinking the two people that sticks out in my mind who were seemingly sort of ready-made stars from NXT to go to the main roster from that point in time was him and Ricochet, and look where they are now. It's absolutely baffling to see. Next up, of course, we have Ruby Riott, who was part of the Riott Squad on SmackDown with Liv Morgan. Never, ever, 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 ever really given a fair crack of the whip to really showcase what she was all about, whether that be wrestling or cutting promos. When she was cutting the promos, I mean, I don't know about you, I always saw Ruby Riott as the sort of the leader of the Riott Squad. I guess it was her name, of course, and she was cutting the promos, and when she cut the promos, she cut very good promos, but again, she was never really given a fair crack of the whip, was she?
Yeah, I was surprised when they released Sarah Logan as well, because she was kind of the hard hitter of the group, wasn't she? She was almost like the Roman Reigns of the group if they were the Shield. But Ruby Riott was very much the leader. It sounds horrible to say, but I'm glad that Liv Morgan's still there, because I think she's very promising. She's definitely got something. But at the same time, Ruby Riott was so experienced and so just solid in the ring. You could always rely on her to have a match with anybody, and it would turn out at least okay, if not really good. And like a lot of the names in this weird batch of releases, very unique as well. Aleister Black, Braun Strowman, really unique figures. Ruby Riott, there was no one else like her visually or in terms of a persona in the women's division, really. So again, it's a baffling decision.
And you just got to wonder how many active roster members we now have in the SmackDown Women's Division. We must be down to sort of 6 or 7 now, if that, with Ruby Riott going. But it's absolutely baffling. It's really weird. Lana as well, who has worked so hard to get a lot better than she used to be in the ring. You can see that's the hard work she's been putting in has been paying off. We go all the way back to the Ravish and Russian days where she was the sort of Russian sympathizer thing with my former Bane Spirit Animal Rusev, and that was just a package that worked. She was great. Really fantastic at these promos with her Russian twang, and then she lost the Russian twang and her promos really lost their way and became sort of rambling and confused, and if she couldn't remember what the script was saying. Do you get that vibe as well?
Yeah, but I don't, and I'm sure you're not either, I wouldn't fully blame her for that. It was almost like there was a general confusion in WWE about what to do with her character when it had been working so well the way it was, but then they just decided to try and make her blonde lady rather than
who could dance.
Who could dance rather than an actual character. She's perhaps the name that I'm still quite surprised, but least surprised out of this batch, just because of Miro and he's gone elsewhere and stuff. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she was definitely going to do that, or that she will. But it is a shame at the same time, because Lana, despite not being the best in the ring, was definitely a personality. So
she had definite charisma, and as I say, the improvement she had in the ring was there to be seen for everybody there. But it's just again to be put in just a random tag team with Naomi because they both dance and do the TikTok and whatnot.
Yeah.
It needs to be better than that, WWE, doesn't it? But there we go. I mean, I'm hesitant to say this, but I'm not against Lana going to AEW and going back with Rusev as an on-screen, with Miro as an on-screen pairing like they did back in the day, because it worked back in the day when Miro was this, Rusev back in the day obviously was this killer, and she was there saying his words, so we just had to beat people up. It worked.
Yeah, I like Miro or Rusev as a promo, but sometimes I feel like he kind of loses his way a little bit, whereas when she's with him, it's a lot tighter, and then he can still chime in and be really menacing and say the occasional line. I think they work really well as a duo, so again, like you, I wouldn't be against that at all, but yeah, it's still a very weird one.
Santana Garrett, probably the least surprising name on this list for me, of course.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, but she was obviously seen more on NXT, just sort of putting over people. She was obviously a good hand in the ring, but didn't really ever have too much going for her creatively. Yeah,
they just never really gave her, I think, the chance that her talent and her background deserved. Yeah, I don't know, that's a bit of a strange one, just because all the others are like big, or fairly big, main roster names, and then she's just sort of thrown in there as well. I don't know if this is to do with perhaps times that contracts were expiring or something, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, you would assume that people like Braun Strowman would have been tied down for years, though.
Yeah.
Not only because of how unique he is and how, strong he's been booked over the years, but just the investment that WWE have put into him, because he absolutely came from the world's strongest man stuff, obviously, and weightlifting, whatever it was back in the day. Obscurity in terms of the world of wrestling. They've made him just this absolute proper superstar. Go back to 2017, 2018, Braun Strowman, when he was trying to murder Roman Reigns, and that was absolutely fantastic stuff. The latter day stuff has sort of lost its way a bit, but still, Braun Strowman, how are you releasing him at this point in time? I've got no idea. And obviously, finally on the list here, we've got Buddy Murphy. Just let the guy wrestle. That's all you need to do, isn't it? Just let the guy wrestle. Yeah,
fantastic in the ring. And that was proven in matches like the ones against Aleister Black and like the ones against... did he ever have an actual singles match against Seth Rollins? I feel like he did.
Yeah, on SmackDown he had the big I quit thing, didn't he?
Oh, of course. And his talent speaks for itself, even from back in when he was in the Cruiserweight division, having great matches with the likes of Mustafa Ali. I don't know, out of everybody, he might be the most natural fit to slip back into a smaller North American promotion and just be a wrestler and just put on great matches. But I mean, you could say the same for anybody, I suppose, out of these releases, that they all definitely have the ability to make a living elsewhere in wrestling, which is a good thing. I mean, it's never nice to see people lose their jobs, but at least, if we try and look at it on the bright side, at least they're all talented enough to make something of themselves elsewhere.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because with the releases, as one door shuts, another one opens. And WWE, by actively releasing these talented wrestlers, are just making their... I don't know if competition's the right word, but the other wrestling promotions around the world, hypothetically, a bit stronger, because now they've got access to these people that they didn't once have access to. Yeah. Of course, we're going to get reaction from the whole wrestling industry as the afternoon continues on. But Seth Rollins, who appeared on Mark Andrews' Love Letter to Pro Wrestling podcast, which I think got released today, how he's speaking about how wrestling makes him feel, feel, how it makes him feel lovely, this, that, and the other, has now just tweeted a series of like broken hearts because he's heartbroken after what has happened this afternoon. But as I say, this is very much a developing story. Keep an eye on cultaholic.com for further developments. Keep an eye on this YouTube channel. We could be back later today if we learn more about why these releases have happened and why they've happened now. So Jack, thank you for joining us here today.
Cheers.
Any more things to say before we go away and hopefully find out some more stuff about this story?
No, yeah, just echoing what you've said. Stay tuned, and we'll catch you later on, depending on what happens.
All right, I've been Ross, he's been Jack, and we'll see you later.